What if your family forced you to marry your own brother, uncle, or cousin, just to keep the bloodline clean? That was the reality for centuries of royal women born into dynasties obsessed with power, legacy, and dangerously close DNA. The result: generations of genetic chaos, mental breakdowns, miscarriages, infant deaths, and some of the most tragic, twisted personal lives in history. Into dark history, strange facts, and stories that make your jaw drop. Hit subscribe. You'll want more of this. This isn't just about kings and queens. From ancient Egypt to modern Appalachia, these women carried the full weight of their family's ambition and paid the ultimate price. And trust us, number one will haunt you. For centuries, royal bloodlines weren't just sacred. They were strategic. Marrying outside the dynasty meant diluting power. So kings, queens, and emperors kept it close. Really close. We're talking siblings, uncles, nieces, and first cousins locked in endless cycles of arranged marriages, all to keep crowns on heads and thrones in the family. The science? Brutal. The more often bloodlines looped back on themselves, the higher the risk of inherited disease, deformity, infertility, and mental illness. But most royals didn't care or didn't understand. Power came first. In fact, the term inbreeding coefficient wasn't even a thing back then. But if you applied it to some of these royal families, you'd find genetic numbers comparable to children born to siblings. And it wasn't just Europe, Egypt, Persia, even modern isolated communities. Wherever power meets isolation, history gets weird. And women often suffer the most. Number 10. Isabella II of Spain. Isabella II was born from an uncle-niece marriage, and her family tree was a genetic mess. Her grandparents were also her great-grandparents. At just 16, she was married to her double second cousin, a man believed to be gay and emotionally unavailable. She went through 11 pregnancies, but only 5 children survived. And most historians believe none were fathered by her husband. Her reign ended in chaos and exile. But behind the politics was a deeper tragedy, a woman shaped and undone by a dynasty obsessed with blood purity. Number 9. Marie-Louise of Austria. Marie-Louise was born deep inside the Habsburg dynasty. Her parents were double first cousins, which left her with only 4 unique great-grandparents. That's a genetic red flag by any standard. At 18, she was married off to Napoleon Bonaparte, her father's sworn enemy, purely for politics and peace. She gave him a son, but she was never more than a dynastic pawn. Her DNA was already fragile before adulthood even began. Marie-Louise didn't just inherit a crown, she inherited a collapsing bloodline. Number 8. Lorraine Whittaker. Lorraine Whittaker isn't royalty, but her story is just as disturbing. She's part of the Whittaker family in rural West Virginia, isolated, poor, and shaped by generations of inbreeding. Lorraine is widely seen as one of the most inbred people in modern history. And she's the mother of Tiny Whittaker, possibly the most inbred living person today. Their lives, captured in a viral documentary, reveal the real cost of genetic isolation. No crowns, no palaces, just pain passed down through blood. Number 7. Maria I of Portugal. Maria I was born into a royal bloodline that had been looping in on itself for centuries. Her parents were part of a long tradition of Iberian cousin marriages, and by 25, she took it a step further, marrying her own uncle to preserve the dynasty. The result? Half her children died young, and those who survived showed signs of inherited illness. By midlife, Maria suffered a total mental collapse. Visions, screaming fits, religious mania. She was eventually declared insane. Her story isn't just tragic, it's genetic. A queen brought down not by war or scandal, but by the cost of keeping royal blood too pure. Number 6. Marie-Louise Elizabeth d'Orléans. Born from a miserable cousin marriage between a duke and the illegitimate daughter of Louis XIV, Marie-Louise didn't get much of a choice. Her life was mapped out before she could speak. She was forced to marry yet another cousin, Prince Charles of Berry, and had 3 children, all of whom died young. Whether it was genetics, trauma, or both, we'll never know. What we do know, she was drinking heavily by age 14, spiraling into alcoholism as her body and mind collapsed under the weight of her bloodline. Royal on paper, shattered in real life. Number 5. Princess Alexia of Greece. Born in 1965, Princess Alexia might be one of the last royals born from old-school cousin marriage. Her parents, King Constantine II of Greece and Queen Anne-Marie of Denmark, were second cousins, and third cousins twice over. Their family trees were loaded with overlapping genes. Constantine's grandmother was the sister of his great-grandfather. Anne-Marie's side, just as tangled. The result? Children with partially inbred DNA, even in the 20th century. No thrones, no power, just the lingering echoes of a dying royal tradition. Number 4. Maria Antonia of Austria. Everyone talks about Charles II of Spain, the Habsburg king so inbred he could barely chew his food. But guess what? His niece, Maria Antonia, was even worse off. Her inbreeding coefficient, the genetic measure of how related your parents are, was higher than that of a child born to full siblings. That's not a metaphor, that's math. Her family tree wasn't a tree. It was a looping nightmare of cousin marriages and sibling pairings, all designed to keep Habsburg power untouched. The price? Fragile health, short lives, and total genetic overload. Maria Antonia didn't rule, she didn't rebel, she just existed, a silent product of a dynasty collapsing under its own DNA. Number 3. Mummies 317A and 317B, they never got names, just numbers. 317A and 317B were the stillborn daughters of Pharaoh Tutankhamun and his half-sister Ankhesenamun. Yes, half-sister. Their tiny, mummified bodies were found buried beside their father, both showing signs of severe genetic disorders. And that's no surprise. Tut himself was the product of incest, with a family tree stacked with sibling marriages going back generations. The royal obsession with divine blood created a biological time bomb. These girls were its casualties. Ancient history, yes, but a brutally clear example of how even gods on earth couldn't escape the laws of genetics. Number 2. Kimberly Colt, no throne, no titles, just horror. Kimberly Colt, not her real name, is part of one of the most disturbing inbreeding cases ever uncovered, a secretive Australian family cult exposed in the 2000s. Multiple generations of incest, abuse, and total isolation created a genetic and humanitarian crisis. Kimberly is considered one of the most inbred living people on Earth, with severe physical and cognitive impairments. Authorities discovered dozens of children with no clear parentage, some born from siblings or even parent-child pairings. This wasn't about power, it was about control, secrecy, and generations of unchecked abuse. It's a brutal reminder, inbreeding doesn't belong to the past. Sometimes it hides in plain sight. Number 1. Cleopatra II Philippata. Forget the Hollywood version. The real Cleopatra II wasn't just born into a royal family, she was engineered by it. The Ptolemies, Cleopatra's Greek-Macedonian dynasty in Egypt, had one rule: marry your sibling, or don't marry at all. Her parents? Siblings? Her grandparents? Also siblings? Her own siblings? Married each other, and so did she. This wasn't accidental. It was a deliberate, generations-long strategy to preserve pure blood and consolidate power. And Cleopatra II was its peak. She wasn't just a queen. She was the biological endgame of relentless inbreeding. Powerful, yes, but also genetically trapped, the final chapter in a dynasty that collapsed under its own obsession. History remembers the name, but few know the cost. From golden thrones to backwoods cabins, one thing is clear. When bloodlines become obsession, someone always pays the price. And more often than not, it's the women, married off young, used for heirs, and left to carry the biological fallout. This isn't just about history, it's about power, isolation, and the terrifying consequences of controlling who people can love and who they're forced to marry. Some of these women ruled empires, others never even got names. But all of them were shaped, sometimes destroyed, by a system that valued purity over humanity.